What is volunteering? Within the philosophy of Erasmus Plus Youth in Action, volunteering is very important as a way to learn and contribute to personal development, as well as to the society we live in. Volunteering is considered an altruistic activity and is intended to promote participation and solidarity and improve quality of life. In return, this activity can produce a feeling of self-worth and respect. There is no financial gain involved for the individual. Volunteering is also associated with skills development, socialization and fun. Volunteering may have positive benefits for the volunteer as well as for the person or community being served. It is also a way of making contacts for possible future employment. It is helping, assisting or serving another person or persons without pay. European Voluntary Service allows a young person residing legally in one of the member or partner countries who is between 17 and 30 years old to become a volunteer in another country for a specified period of between 2 and 12 months. The voluntary activities can be in various fields, such as the environment, arts and culture, activities with children, young people or the elderly, heritage or sports and leisure. The project has to take place in a country other than where the volunteer lives. It should be non-profit making and unpaid. Each EVS project involves a partnership between a volunteer, a sending organisation, and the host organisation. One of the countries involved in the project must be an EU member state or an accession country. It is possible to do EVS in all 28 European Union member states and partner countries. It might also be possible to go outside of these countries, but this involves a different procedure which you would need to contact your national agency about. European Voluntary Service is based on the following main principles. 1. Promoting active citizenship. 2. Developing the ability to interact with people of different languages and cultures. 3. Spreading tolerance among young people of the European Union. 4. Supporting the development of local communities. 5. Increasing your own skills through the practical experience of volunteering abroad. 6. Encouraging the learning of another language.
Romania is a European country and a European Union member, located in the eastern part of Europe. It is surrounded by Bulgaria in the south, Serbia in the southwest, Hungary in the northwest, Ukraine in the north, and the Republic of Moldova in the east. Romania has a population of 20 million people, and its capital is Bucharest.
Cântă cu bată-n vina, de răsună Bucovina. Cântă cu bată-n vina, de răsună Bucovina. Cântă cu într-un brădus, de răsună în Cernăuț.
We have to strengthen civil society to confront politicians. We have to be vigilant and hold our leaders accountable. For many in Romania, that's a new concept. The protesters returned with renewed vigor after the new leftist government, voted in by just 40% of the electorate, moved to decriminalize some forms of corruption. The government repealed the decree, but the demonstrations continued, with protesters demanding the government step down. The protesters include many young people.
All I want is that the money that I pay from my taxes to be used efficiently from the people that are running the country.
Anger, yeah. A lot of anger and disappointment. We were let down by this government.
The leader of the state anti-corruption agency has raised the alarm.
Reformele care s-au făcut în sistemul de justiție,
The events of recent days have shown us that the reforms in the judicial system can be reversed, especially if these legal amendments pass through Parliament. For us to continue our job, it's necessary to have a stable institutional framework.
Stabilitatea cadrului instituțional și organizațional al DNA.
These young guys, they have the courage, they have the trust, and they believe in the new, another future of Romania.
The protests have clearly had an impact, but many suggest it will take more than trust and courage for that new future to take hold.
Sunday evening protests at the famous Victoria Square in central Bucharest. They are into their 6th consecutive night, but unlike previous nights, police have kept a low profile and no major incidents were recorded. More than 100,000 came to celebrate government back down from the corruption decriminalization decree and to state new demands.
The government took back the ordinance, but they are very bad people. They wanted to promote corrupt people, to not let them go to jail and so on. So this is why the fact that they took back the ordinance is not enough.
They're trying to oust Romania's new government, but after some early successes, it's not proving easy.
This government has no intention whatsoever to resign. We'll do our job. If we get a non-confidence vote in the parliament, we'll go home. But until that moment, we'll do our job.
After days of dwindling numbers, they came here in their tens of thousands to prove to the government that they're still a force to be reckoned with, that they're still waiting for the government to resign. The government, though, is standing firm. It says it wants dialogue, but who with?
Between January and February 2017, something unpredictable happened in Romania. Hundreds of thousands of people went to the street in the biggest demonstration of the Romanian history to derogate the new amnesty law. This government emergency ordinance was planning to release politicians who were in prison condemned for corruption. The government justified this act by saying that prisons were overcrowded and the politicians were the less dangerous prisoners. In response, the main squares of the Romanian cities were full of people asking for democracy and transparency in a demonstration called Resist. To have an idea of the huge number of protesters, 500,000 people went to the street during one night in the center of Bucharest, with the remarkable presence of the young people. Not even the revolution of 1989, when Romanians forced the fall down of the communist regime and its leader Ceausescu, had as much protesters as the one in question had. Some of you could think that the Romanians are used to protest and demand change in the street. Not really the case. But is the Romanian society really interested and involved in politics, especially the young generations? I am Xabier Huarte, a Spanish 23 years old who happened to be in Romania during a European voluntary service exchange that happened over 10 months, and I took an active part of these nights of the protest in Piața Victoriei, Bucharest, waving flags and shouting along with the crowd. The reality shows us that the political participation of Romanian young people in politics is less than in other European countries. The statistics stand by this affirmation. One of the main reasons might be the communist past of the country. The history tells us that during more than 40 years, the Romanian society suffered the lack of civil rights and political prosecution by the communist regime. The communist leader created a secret police, the political police called Securitatea, to make sure that not one was protesting or even complaining about the communist lifestyle. Mario, a 49-year-old cook from Bucharest, explained his view about the repression of that period.
¿Cómo te puedo decir? El comunismo en Rumanía, como en toda la Europa del Este.
The communism in Romania, like in the rest of Eastern Europe, wasn't made by the will of the people. It was imposed by Soviet tanks. In those days, in order to change the mind of the people, they put many persons in prisons, and they killed a lot of them. Just by speaking something, if someone reported you, they would put you in prison or they killed you without a problem.
¿Sabes? Por una pequeña denuncia te metía en la cárcel y te mataba.
Also, the propaganda and the lack of impartial news was the daily bread for the Romanians.
Por ejemplo, otra cosa, no tenías acceso a ninguna cosa de informarte, como era fuera.
You didn't have access to get information like the people in Western societies had. Everything was closed and everything was communist propaganda. We only had 2 hours of TV emission that was party's propaganda and nothing else.
2 horas era propaganda del partido.
Suntem copii, dar cum vom fi? Plin de uimire, plin de iubire, cu ochii vom urmări. Știm de pe acum ce ne aștepți la Dumne numărate, flori și palate, să avem noi mâine aur și pâine. Voi sunteți niște eroi, dar într-o zi și noi.
The lack of information and the political prosecution created a pattern in the mind of the old people, and still now some of them are afraid of politics or they hide their political opinions. That could explain the lack of political participation of people born before 1980, that suffered the most in the worst time of the communist regime. What about the young generation? After the 1989 revolution, the capitalism and the democracy came to Romania. However, the hope of a better future was stolen by the politicians in charge of the transition progresses. According to the journalist George, an important number of communist politicians continue working as part of the democratic regime.
What happened within this transition period is that people that had some experience with the politics that were in the communist regime, most of them took over.
Regarding the quality of life, the privatization, meaning the selling of state-owned factories to the private sector, and the inequalities between rich and ordinary people made the daily life difficult for most Romanians. The unemployment and the poverty raised so much that some people were forced to reorganize their life in a totally new economical and social system, where the state was not providing food, accommodation and work anymore.
Also, the industry was sold. I'm coming from Brașov. In Brașov, we had maybe 4 or 5 big factories. We built the trucks, engines, we built tractors, we built even helicopters and so on. And all this industry was made one with the ground. I mean, it was sold for nothing. Probably high amounts of money went to the pockets of the politicians.
In this context, PCD, the Romanian Social Democrats, became the most popular party after the revolution, and it was in charge of the national government for almost 20 years. One of the main causes of its popularity is that the old people who are nostalgic about communism see the PCD as a tool to recover something of those lost times. these new times, this capitalism seems strange and unfamiliar for them. And it also means a failure for the average Romanian, who is poorer than during the communist era. The only problem is that what Romanian implemented is a hybrid for capitalism, which is democracy, run by neo-communism. This way of thinking is motivated by the populist message of the Social Democratic Party, and also by the presence in parliament of some of ex-communist leaders. Moreover, the lack of media diversity that the old people consume contribute to spread PCD's propaganda.
Elders are also easier to manipulate. I think that is something that we should take into consideration because they were manipulated all their lives, all their adult lives, most of their adult life, and they have created some patterns of, believing something, of trying to live life by others' rules. And they, for that reason, and of course because they don't know how to interact with other media of information, they're easily manipulated. And also they're, let's say, they regret the old regime because, the old regime gave everyone a house, gave everyone a job. These are things that even for me, who understands what was so rotten and wrong with the communism, it seems appealing. I'm imagining myself living in the communist times and having a house and having a job and, not striving for that, not making an effort to have all that, but I don't know, having an effort to just raise kids and so on. But the price was, very high.
But why aren't young people so keen to vote, as the old Romanians are? Is it related to the youngsters' disregard of politics? Is there a new generation prepared to fight fire with fire?
Vamos unidos a la faena por la regeneración total. Para lograrlo se necesita no más tu credencial de elector. Piensa en la patria, recapacita y cuida tu voto libertador. Que la derecha ya no descuadre el resultado de la elección. Para que no nos vengan con fraude, solo hace falta organización.
Alan Coliban is a young senator of the Union Safe Romania USR party and an expert in environmental issues. Union Safe Romania is a new party which was created 1 year before the protest, and it hasn't a very clear ideology, but its political program could be considered in the middle between the Liberals and the Social Democrats. USR is composed of young people who have never taken part in politics. That is why the party is seen as a symbol for the democratic regeneration and a reference party for many youngsters. We had the opportunity to have a chat with Alan Coliban regarding the causes of the lack of implication in politics of the young people.
First of all, we have a problem with the perception of what politics are and how politicians are. Lots of people, namely the young ones, have this mentality of, politics, if you go there, only people that have a personal interest go into politics, only corrupt people. If you're worthy of something, or if you know something, if you're good at something, then you can make your own business or you can have your own way, which is not in politics. So we have this kind of mentality problem. I don't know if it's just in Romania. I think worldwide politicians are not best regarded.
Regarding the solutions to raise the motivation of young people to get into politics, Alan Coliban himself could be a reference. Before getting involved into politics, he had a successful professional career as the president of the Carlin Romanian Association, and also he created a European funds consultancy firm, among other projects. However, he decided to get into politics to change the social and political reality that surrounds him. Well, to quote him, he didn't choose to get involved. The lack of hope in politics forced his conscience to take a step forward.
The decision was quite emotional. If you ask me about the people around me, like family and friends, it wasn't something that they foreseen it, and neither did I. I think it all started with the personal story and the personal drama. I've had a member of the family who died being expelled from a hospital. So after that, I realized, also being a father, I realized this is not the world I would like to raise my kid into. So it's either we move, or either I move, or I do something about it. And everything overlapped on the model and on the role model of Nicu Șordan and his party, because he was not a politician. He's a mathematician who started to fight the system and win trials against the municipality of Bucharest. And he was somebody I and also others could relate to and could identify with. So he had his own crusade, and this was something we found inspiring, and we said, okay, we're getting involved in this.
Moreover, the members of USR don't call themselves politicians, but they are outsiders who want to regenerate the way of doing politics with some specific measures that other parties don't want to adopt.
One of the principles of the party was we don't take people who've been to other parties. So we don't take politicians. We only promote new people.
Also, Alan says that thanks to the pressure of the civil society and the work of USR, lately the traditional parties are promoting new politicians in their own ranks.
All of them have new people and promote new people. So I think that's a first step into transitioning to a younger political class and a more educated one.
Regarding the specific measures that could increase the political participation of youngsters, Colivan mentioned two: the good example of the political class and the change of the electoral law.
First of all, setting an example. Now we have a new political class. If in these 4 years we manage to prove people that something can be changed and something can be done for the good, then I think more and more will join. And you won't have the impulse like we had on the negative side. Oh, I'm going to politics because I can't take it anymore. I can't bear it anymore. You'll have a positive impulse of, okay, let me go there and do something good. So that's one thing, setting an example. The other one would be we have to change the voting systems, and we have to make it easier for grassroots movements to break through. It was kind of like a block. It was a fixed number of parties who had access to the parliament and to power, and it was really, really hard to break through. But I think we have to change that. We have to liberalize the political market and to allow people to express themselves in easier ways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ha vuelto el barrio bajero. Con el corazón de acero, directamente desde la calle del barrio El Corralón, donde muchos de vosotros perdisteis la dignidad y lo perdisteis todo. Dale ahí. Solo soy un niño barrio bajero, no tengo dinero. Si un te quiero, eso espero. No soy el típico que te promete el mundo. Primero, venta miqueo, que el amor es lo segundo. Y lo sabes, soy Aloy, el de los vídeos del YouTube. No el ciclao que se mata a currar para mantenerse.
The Romanian resist protest is not the only one in Europe where the young people demonstrate to show their disappointment with corruption and the political establishment. In Spain, youngsters went to the street in order to say that they were not feeling represented by the conservative and the social democratic traditional parties on May 2011. The demonstration had over 6 million protesters all over Spain. It was called 15M, 15M. In those times, the Spanish society was suffering the consequences of a difficult economical crisis. The unemployment rate was around 20%. 500 people were evicted from their houses every day, while the government made the most important budget cuts of the modern democracy. Like in most of European countries, the young people were suffering the worst part of the crisis, with a 44% unemployment rate. Moreover, every day the media was bringing to light new corruption cases. In this situation, some of the leaders of the protest decided to develop the 15M demonstration in a new political party called Podemos. Joseba is a friend of mine and one of the most honest persons I have ever met. He started working actively in politics 2 years ago, motivated by the opportunity of changing the reality surrounding him. This is what he thinks about the creation of Podemos.
Si surge un nuevo partido, en este caso Podemos, desde el 15M, entiendo que
A new party was born from 15M movement because many people who were protesting in the streets understood that the things have to be changed through politics, to create a new party and to get enough votes to change that reality that nobody liked.
Cambiar esa realidad que a nadie le gustaba.
Podemos party attracted the interest and the participation of young people from the beginning. This new party was created by young people who didn't have a political past, so they didn't have corruption cases and they strongly criticized the austerity policies. The youngsters were feeling represented by this party.
Yo creo que una gran parte de los jóvenes sí se sienten identificada con Podemos.
Many youngsters feel represented by Podemos, because until that moment the old politicians made just one kind of politics and the young people didn't have another alternative. We young were realizing that those politics were wrong and the politicians who were implementing the austerity were corrupted. Suddenly, a party which proposed another kind of politics appeared. So it is normal that the young people prefer this one.
Hacia ese partido, la gente joven.
In rezist protest, the Romanian young generation proved to the society and to itself that ordinary people are able to organize a protest in a civic and effective way. Although there are still some historical obstacles and, above all, a strong presence of corrupted and incompetent politicians that produce disaffections, there are European experiences and young politicians who show that a country can be changed if the young people want it.